East Lyme Zoning Commission regular meeting of October 5th, 2023 to order at 7:30 p.m. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, welcome everyone who's joining us tonight. We'll do roll call again. I'm here, Mr. Granitak.
Present.
Ms. Jet Harris.
Present.
Mr. Peck.
Here.
Mr. Manning.
Present.
Mr. Schmidt.
Present.
Mr. Ginsburg. Ms. Markovitz. Mr. Peterson. And Mr. Mahalan.
Present.
Ms. LaRocco. And Ms. Hardy had to step out to another meeting, but she may be joining us later. First, we always have public delegations. Public delegations is a time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission on subject matters that are not on tonight's agenda. Come on up.
Nancy Kalal, 80 Grassy Hill. I have a comment about aquifer protection. Can I talk about that? Since you had
It's
your
not
meeting?
in the zoning meeting. Yeah, go ahead.
We had great aquifer protection back before Costco. We got Costco and now we have wellhead protection. It would seem to me to be really smart if we tossed the wellhead protection out the window and reinstituted the aquifer protection, which covered several hundred acres, which included the Hathaway parcel, which is the recharge area to the aquifer. That's all I have to say. Well, I have a lot to say, but I'll keep it simple.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here tonight wanting to speak on something that is not on tonight's agenda? No? Okay, we'll move on to our public hearing. Our first item has been withdrawn. That was the application of Joseph Basilio of Eliano's Grove for a special permit for outdoor dining at 228 Flanders Road, Niantic, Assessor's Map 26.1, Lot 26. Next, we have the application of Waterview Landscaping, LLC, agent for Roderick Cornish, owner, for a special permit for outdoor dining at property located at 26 West Main Street, Niantic, Assessor's Map 11.2, Lot 17. Mr. Mahalan was the legal ad run.
Yes. I have to
Recuse myself. Mr. Ginsburg, would you please be seated in Mr. Peck's place? Thank you.
Can you see this? Should I move it closer?
We can see the top 2/3.
Okay,
Yeah. First,
Thank you.
First, we have a memo to read, and then we'll. Okay, thank you.
Memo to the.
Not Bill's memo.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We're all. Do you want to read your memo? You do?
Terry,
Okay.
if you may, please.
Memo to East Lyme Zoning Commission from William Mahalan, zoning official, dated October 4th, 2023, regarding a special permit application, outdoor dining, 26 West Main Street, Niantic. As the commission may recall, 26 West Main Street is the location of Charlie's Place Restaurant. The business is under new ownership, and they would like to make some changes. Over the last several years, the operator has applied for and received an annual special permit to build and operate an outdoor patio on the premises. The facility was to be located in the rear of the building, however, it was never built. The new owner of the restaurant is applying for a new special permit to construct and operate a patio in a different location. Should the request be approved, the old permit would be abandoned. A copy of the new location plan is in your packets. The new patio will consist of a 17-foot by 30-foot area directly to the west of the building and will be constructed as an outdoor dining space. The ground surface will be covered with a gray tone concrete paver. It will be mortarless insulation, which will allow surface to drain water. The space will be screened by evergreen arborvitaes, which will separate the space from neighboring properties and act as a natural green fence. Additional plantings will be incorporated into the area to soften the space. A black aluminum fence will be used to separate the fence from the parking lot and provide security. The lighting of the area should be addressed during the hearing to ensure low intensity of illumination. Because alcohol will be served, a special permit is required under section 20.25 of the zoning regulations, items A through L. I note that the waiver of item J is required for setbacks. The board will want to review closing times, outdoor speakers, and entertainment. In conclusion, the board should carefully evaluate the application for compliance with regulations.
Thank you. If you could state your name and address.
My name is Brenda Barclay. I'm head of design for Waterview Landscaping.
Thank you.
I've presented a board. I believe you also have these documents in your packets. The top drawing is the plan of the layout for the entire area. I did show you, let me just step. Can you hear me if I'm just talking? Okay. The top is the plan. In the center are the details. These show sections through the fencing, through the living wall, and through the outdoors, so you can see there are bollards in place, there are protections in place, the fencing is in place, the arborvitaes are in place. You can see all of that in the plan as well. I also gave you snap screenshots of the materials that I am suggesting that he uses. The fencing is here, tables, chairs, and the boxes. The boxes are cedar, they will not rot. We're also doing, just around the outside, in this area only, on the four corners, there'll be posts and beams. No trellis above. All that does is give me a place to put some little twinkle lights to make it pretty and sweet. And it gives your body a sense of scale because they're 7'6", like most arbors are. And in a sky space, to have anything that just insinuates scale just makes you more comfortable. There's no real structure here. There's no blocking of anything. It's just posts and beams. That's it. So aside from that, there's no real structure. The pavers are here. The building is here, just so you can kind of get an idea. Arborvitaes protect all neighbors. And the fences, I believe 5 feet is what's required. That's what you'll get. And the arborvitaes are 6 feet. So you have a good, and they're just going in that size. They'll get bigger. So I don't think it'll be a bother to the neighbors. Go back to
Do we have any questions for the presenter?
Hey, could you go over hours of operation? Tentative hours
I
of
don't
operation?
actually know their hours of operation. I believe they close fairly early, 9 o'clock or something. I don't know their hours of operation.
Thank you.
What?
Can you tell me about the fence that you have there, the decorative?
Do you know the black aluminum fences that have the
Yes.
thin slats? That's what it is. It's black aluminum. It's intended to look like iron used to look,
Similar
but iron
devs.
rusts and aluminum doesn't.
I'm sorry?
Similar to Dev's.
Okay.
That was
That's
the
what I
kind of
thought
devs,
it kind
similar.
of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 5 feet is what you guys asked for, right? Or is it 6 feet?
It's not actually in the code. We try to look at heights of fences and per project. In another project, we might suggest 6 feet. In another project, we might suggest 4, depending on what the characteristics are of the space that we're looking at in the design space.
I had suggested 5. I think 4 is a little too small, to be frank. I think 5 is better. We do have a gate at each end, so children and all patrons will be corralled.
How many people does this deck hold?
There's 8, 4 tops. That's it.
How many?
So up to 32.
And he can arrange those tables into 2 8 tops or whatever it is that he would want. But it's not a big space. 17 by 30. It's not even as big as a third of this room.
Can you clarify where the tables from? What is that? Right? It's not
The
clear.
far end, the far end.
The left,
The
yeah.
far end,
Yeah, here.
see that? That's where we're ending right now.
And-
At some
okay.
point, I kept this on here.
This area right here, what is this?
Okay, this exists. This is like a smoker. It exists.
Okay.
It's
So
there.
this is net new here?
That's
and
right.
This is existing structure.
Yes, however, you see this center part? This is the door to the kitchen. I'm continuing the concrete pavers to the kitchen door so that the servers will not trip. They have a consistent surface.
What is this right here?
It's existing. I think it's like a smoker. It's like a big barbecue. It's gigantic. It's there. It's
Oh, okay,
pre-existing.
that's what it says. I saw a bar.
Oh, no.
Like, it's putting a bar in there? Okay.
No, absolutely not.
Existing barbecue smoker, existing structure, all you're adding.
And this is just this is not even going in now. All I'm doing is this center line right here. I'm going to continue these pavers down to the door so they can go into their door cleanly. That's the kitchen door right there. That exists.
So no alcohol is going to be stored outside for
No,
use of service
no,
or anything like that?
absolutely not. Their bar is inside. There's no place to store anything outside.
Okay.
However, at this time, we are installing all the arborvitaes shown on the plan,
Oh.
correct?
You better believe it.
So including the ones that are,
How many, what's the number of
They're
them?
actually, can you see this right here?
Yep.
They're here, here's what I did. These are permanently installed, okay? They go in, because of the nature of the plant that they are, they tend to grow relatively narrow, so they'll be going in about 3 feet on center. There will be no space between the plants.
How many
But-
do you think?
And then let me just point out one thing to you, okay? These 4, which screen the far end, there's a gate in the center, are in pots because as part of phase 2, he is considering doing another section down here. He wants to see how this goes in terms of how the community will appreciate having an outdoor dining space. If it goes well, then we simply will take these, put them here, and add on to this space. Another time. We are not asking for a permission for that right now. But it's on the drawing because I wanted everyone to see our goal.
And what other kind of lights do you have besides the string
I'll be
lights?
honest, we don't have any plans for lighting because I didn't know what you guys were going to say. So when you tell me what is allowed, that's what we'll do.
soft, dim,
I know that you guys don't, I mean, night sky is a big thing. I've been at this for 40 years. Night sky is a big thing. You don't want to flash light at your neighbor's windows. I mean, come on. You got to be, you know.
Where are property lines in relation
The
to?
property line is here. Do you see this dash line?
Yeah.
It's right there. And then down and in. I think it actually goes behind. There's land behind this building that's like got dark garbage
And
and
there
stuff back there.
needs to be a setback?
Your regulations under section 20 in the outdoor dining, when we created them, we went to 0 lot line with the permission of the commission, and lot coverage as well as not requiring parking because the board wanted to promote outdoor dining. And as we all know, we've had a proliferation of outdoor dining spaces in Niantic, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, they're pretty crowded. I also want to add that during COVID, there was outdoor dining at this site, but it was out in the front of the building. But during COVID, many restaurants were on the lean side in terms of business. And then the previous permit that this commission has approved was to be in the back. They never built it, but it was renewed annually. And I believe it's a sewer pump station in the back. That's probably not appropriate to have outdoor dining next to.
It's just not a nice spot.
Do you have speakers outside? Or?
No.
Okay. So no music outside?
We're going to take this one step at a time. There are neighbors here. So I don't even think he's open very late. I don't know his hours, but I recall something about 9 o'clock. So I don't think it's like a late night bar. It's not going to be loud partying outside, nothing like that. This is a family place. It does have a bar, but there are a lot of people. I've been in the place just talking to Rod. There are families in and out of that place. So I suspect it'll be low key.
Do you feel like there's adequate parking for 32 more people to dine?
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I
They have
just
this
wanted your
gigantic
opinion.
parking lot already. They couldn't possibly be parking in all those. You know how it goes all the way around the other side? And it goes into the back of the building too. I can't imagine a place having more parking than this place already has.
Do you know how many spots there are currently?
Not off the top of my head. Do you want me to? I could guess.
I think there's 32, right? Is it like 32?
It has to be more than that. There's 3 bays on the side, and then there's all across the front as well. I would guess more like 50. It's got a lot of parking. Never seen the place full, but I don't go there at night. I go home at night.
My
Unless I'm
question,
here.
I have a concern, rather, about your fencing. So if you look at the first set of fences there, because, you know, people are going,
Wait. Are you talking about this or this?
both, I'm comparing those two, like, the one on the bottom has the spiky things on top. I'm a little uncomfortable with that type of fencing due to people drinking, and if it's going to be 6 feet tall or 5 feet tall,
I think 5's better.
anybody that trips or
I think
falls,
it's a different kind of fencer.
it's going to go right in their eyeball.
They do make them also so that they have like a top bar.
Yeah, they do.
Right, because on the one on the top, you do have the top bar.
This is drawn
Yeah.
by me.
Okay, well,
And this came out of a computer.
okay,
So
I like
will do the top bar.
I like that because I think it's safer for
I agree.
children and anybody
agree.
that happens to may fall. A senior might fall, and you know, with the height of it, it
Or
would
a 20-something.
it could hurt them. Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
But yeah, keep one thing in mind here. This particular elevation is outside. So you can see the bollards, and these planter boxes are outside. The fence is continuous along the inside of that.
right,
It doesn't stop at the pots. It's behind them.
right.
That's why, see that elevation? You can't see the fence at all. You only see the chairs.
I like the fence. I just at the bottom section, in my opinion, I'm concerned
problem.
about this sticking up extra of that.
It's a different style.
If I may, that fence is only in the front part of the drawing, right across
It's in the
front and
back.
only, is that correct?
But the fence is all the way around.
Right,
It's
so,
just this is the only elevation I have of the fence.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of scale.
Yeah.
But the fence is continuous all the way around, building to building.
Right.
And there's a gate in the front and a gate in the back.
Right.
and because we're serving alcohol, that's appropriate to have that fence still
Yeah.
forward.
Oh, I don't have a problem with the fence. It's just the style of fence
Not a
at the
problem.
bottom with the thing sticking up and not a top bar on top of the thing
Just
sticking
pick
up.
a different style.
So you would add the bar to the top, so
Yeah.
consider that done.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, I think it would make everyone safer.
Confirm there's no amplified music allowed.
I will confirm that for you.
I think that would have to be stipulation.
I think that already is known.
So, to clarify that position, so if you were to approve this, I know what I have coming forward to work with. You haven't asked for music,
Mm.
so we're not
I don't think it's an issue.
considering any entertainment at
I think
this
he actually
time.
said to me, they'll never let me play music out there.
And should he want to do something like that, he would have to come back to this commission. And also, this
And I would
isn't,
imagine it would only be for like if he was having a wedding or if he was having a bachelor party and he wanted to play music, he would come for a special
permit.
circumstance
Yeah.
kind of thing.
and in addition, as we know, this is an annual permit before this board and public hearing. So if there are problems, you have the opportunity to address it again.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the rest of the commission?
This might sound like a silly question, but it's relevant to something else. Do you have a particular type of arborvitae in mind?
Emerald green.
Emerald green.
Is that a native one or?
No, definitely not. You want an arborvitae that doesn't get too large. It doesn't need to be sheared too often. And emerald green are the smallest and slowest growing. You could look at them for a year and not see them grow. They really grow very slowly. So I'm putting them in at 6 feet. It'll take years for them to get to 8 feet. If you put in a regular arborvitae, even a dark American or any of the others, green giant's out of the question. You'll be shearing that thing every 6 months. They just get too big. So emerald green's like your only choice to keep a narrow, tall, evergreen hedge.
Thank you.
For the record, their posted closing time is 9 p.m.
See? I thought I remembered 9.
Well, if we don't have any more questions from the commission, do we have anyone here in favor of this outdoor dining that wants to speak? Do we have anyone against the outdoor dining that wants to speak? Yes, ma'am. Yes, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pat Avery, and I live at 32 West Main Street to the rear of the restaurant. We own property directly in the back of the restaurant and also in back of and to the west of 30 West Main Street, where the applicant, the owner of Waterview, owns an office building and parking lot. This is my third appearance in regards to this application for outside dining. The first time I expressed support of the application, but asked that the lighting not affect us. I reiterate that request. Since then, we have experienced, among many other things, overflow restaurant parking at 30 West Main, spilling onto our grass on the south and west of the parking lot, and on occasion at the Book Barn. 30 West Main Street shares our driveway by way of a right-of-way. It is by a zoning permit an exit and not an entry. The do not enter sign is ignored. There have been a couple of close calls with us as a result. All this has occurred without an outside dining facility. If it is built, the overflow parking will increase as the seating increases. I am afraid that this will be a more frequent problem and ask that this be addressed. We have some photos, and I have a copy of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you would just make sure that doesn't get lost so that I can keep it in the master file, please.
Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to speak against this outdoor dining? Is there anyone neutral that would like to speak? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion to close the hearing unless anyone on the commission has anything else to say.
I have a, so how, I'm looking at a satellite image of the property and I'm counting 25 parking spots. Does this project encroach on any of the existing spots?
No, absolutely not.
And it's on the west side of the property?
Correct. It's kind of like a service area now. It's definitely an improvement to the property.
Right here, yeah. And the right-of-way, your right-of-way, ma'am, is in between
It's on the other side of this.
the other side of this?
Here, Terry, here's some actual photos.
Right here?
And my question is, will with the outdoor dining in this property conform to the parking space requirements
This is Charlie's.
The existing parking is what it is. Your regulations do not require any parking, additional parking for outdoor dining. It's viewed as a bonus. And
about additional parking relative to this outdoor dining?
the code does not require any additional parking.
Okay, thank you.
I would say I have been there more than once when I could not find a parking place.
Really?
So we chose another place to dine that evening.
Really?
Yep,
Wow.
very recently also.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I have concerns about the parking also, and I would like to see this table until we have the exact number of spaces and the layout, and the number of seats in the restaurant, because I don't want to approve this if there's not going to be enough parking. And I also have been there when every space was taken in front of in the regular parking lot.
Okay, are we ready to close the hearing? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Neutral? Abstain? Okay. We'll move on. Thank you. The application of Jerry Locken, East Lyme Parks and Recreation Director, for special permit for installation of one 130-foot by 70-foot area. Thank you. To contain 4 pickleball courts at Brook Park, 221 West Main Street, Niantic, Assessor Map 10.0, Lot 1. Mr. Mahalan, was the legal ad run? Thank you.
This goes with that.
So next, if you could read this memo.
All right, we have memo to East Lyme Zoning Commission from William O'Holen, zoning official, regarding a special permit application, pickleball courts, 41 Society Road, October 4th, 2023. The applicant, East Lyme Parks and Recreation, is applying for a special permit to develop new pickleball courts at Peretz Park at Bride Park off Route 156. The courts will be constructed next to the existing basketball courts, which are essentially in the middle of the park. The location should mitigate any issues with perceived noise. 4 courts will be built, and there will be a short walking distance from the parking lot. At this time, there is not any additional parking planned, as the present configuration should suffice. Lighting is existing, however, this subject should be clarified during the hearing by the applicant. The application is submitted as required under section 20.1.2F, Town Buildings and Uses. This section requires a special permit as provided for in section 25, special permits. While the park have been previously approved, additional uses are required to be permitted. While the courts are a minor addition to the overall operation of the park, the present popularity of the game should generate substantial interest. I also note that the Planning Commission has found the use consistent with the plan of development and has approved the project.
Thank you. We also have a Planning Commission memo.
I believe it's in your packets. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you.
Anybody have any? Oh, I have it. Department of Planning and Inland Wetlands regarding the proposed project. Dear Mr. Loken, the East Lyme Planning Commission at a special meeting held on Tuesday, August 12, 2014 at the East Lyme Town Hall, 108 Pennsylvania Avenue, Niantic, Connecticut, exercising the authority of the Planning Commission pursuant to Section 8-24 of the General Statutes and having reviewed the proposal for the new pickleball courts at Peretz Park at Brybrook, found the above referenced proposal consistent with East Lyme's 2020 Plan of Conservation and Development and voted to approve the aforesaid proposal and forward a favorable recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact Director of Planning or visit the East Lyme Planning Department. Michelle Royce Williams, Chair, Planning Commission. I guess I would just note that that date of August 12th
Okay.
is probably not correct.
Thank you. Got it. Would the applicant like to speak now?
Yes, please. I'm Jerry Locke, and I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. I think Mr. Mahone's memo was right on target. I don't have any kind of conflicts with what he's written there. I thought he did a great job with that. A couple of pieces of additional information, maybe to go into a little more detail. Brydebrook, Peretz Park at Brydebrook has about 200 parking spaces, and there are times that the park does see a lot of activity, and those parking spaces are all used at particular times, particularly when youth sports are going on there. Therefore, we would be working with the groups to kind of schedule different times so that we don't have, a group of pickleballers showing up on a Saturday morning when, lots of kids and families are showing up to play soccer, for example. I would also like the commission to include in their consideration lights. Although the lights are not a part of our immediate plans, it is possible that somewhere down the road that lights could be potentially added. And there are a lot of things that we would take into consideration with those lights. Certainly, technology today allows for lights to be specifically focused, so there isn't any spillage, and there are energy efficient lights and things like that we would really take into account and do a nice job just focusing the light on the courts and not impacting any kind of, like I say, neighbors or spillage or anything like that. The courts are located in just about the exact center of the park, which means that we're, the farthest away from neighbors on all sides. There are neighbors to the west, and they're about 600 feet away from the proposed location, so that's quite a distance. Also, the prison is over there and whatnot, but and Route 156. So there really aren't a whole lot of impacts for neighbors in terms of noise or any kind of thing like that. And we would be constructing a post-tension concrete slab that would be about 70 feet by 130 feet. And any kind of drainage around that would be just kind of handled, as the rest of the park is with sheet drainage kind of, and this wouldn't impact that flow. It would, the park would continue to function as it does now. And I guess that's all I have, and I'd happily answer any questions or.
I have a quick question. I'm looking at this example, pickleball courts. I'm looking
Sure.
at the style of fencing, and I know you discussed about trying to modify the hours or tailor it according to other uses on the property. How would you try to keep people out of the pickleball courts when there's not adequate parking? You plan on locking the fence? You have locking gates, and I see low fencing. Someone could jump
Yeah,
over.
I don't have exact drawings of what we would be constructing there, but we plan to have an 8-foot fence surrounding the courts, and that 8-foot fence would have windscreen on it. So some of the fences that you see in your images there have windscreen on and some
Right.
don't, but we're talking about an 8-foot fence with windscreen all the way around the 4 courts. The picture there, the image without anybody in it, that's just kind of shows the kind of the layout, the 2/2 kind of layout that we planned for the court. So that's why that image was included. But in terms of locking the gates, I don't think we would be doing that. I think people, the pickleball community is well versed in scheduling times. They do that with social media and whatnot. And in terms of Parks and Recreation planning our programs, we would specifically plan clinics or lessons or things like that at times we know. Open times in the park would be well known among pickleball players, as would times to avoid. Nobody wants to go fight for parking in order to play pickleball. It's just a matter of us getting the word out, and I don't think there's a need to lock those gates. So, yeah, I don't foresee that being an issue for us.
Unfortunately, I work at the high school, and we now have to lock our gates because people don't yield to signs and social media and things like that, unfortunately, and it's a contentious issue. So
Yep.
that's the reason I asked that, is
Okay.
not necessarily like an honor system or a word of mouth doesn't necessarily always work, Sometimes you have to lock gates.
I have a question about the lighting. You speak of lighting, which isn't in the application. Because there are homes and people that live there, and even though you're 600 feet away, even though you have the lights are going to be down, is it still going to affect them? You know what I mean? Like at 600 feet away, that lighting still could affect the residents that live in that area.
I would point out the fact that there are lights on Kessler Field, there's lights on the adult softball field, there's lights on the basketball court, there are lights in the parking lot that currently exist. I would suggest that any lights that we install there down the road would be likely a better technology and even more well directed than the existing lights that are there. You drive by there on a particular night, and the high school might have a night game or activities going on, and any of those fields are currently going on.
What time would you shut the lights off typically?
Depends on event-specific things, but typically it wouldn't go past 9 o'clock at night. I can't think of a single instance in the last year when lights are on like past 8:30 or so, and that's typically just driven by the fact that most of the activities at the park are youth-based. Parents don't want their kids out late at night, so once their games are done, the lights turn off.
I do have a question about the gates being locked. If the gates aren't being locked, as Commissioner Granitek has expressed, kids, they'll get in there. Is there going to be cameras up there? Like, are you concerned about vandalism at all, or because see here the diagram that you gave us, there's 2 separate fencing sizes. There's a really low one where it's quite obvious they can get over, but then there's the really tall one there as well. So,
Okay.
which is it? Is it
Yep.
which is the height of the? I mean, you said 8 foot fencing with the windscreen. So that is going to be all of it. So this picture you gave us is not accurate of what you're going to be
Correct.
doing.
I just used examples of
Okay.
particular types of fencing. The 8-foot fence would go all the way around the four courts, and there would actually be a fence kind of cutting it in half. So the end of one court doesn't run into the end of the other ones. The courts side by side would not have a fence between them, but
Right.
between the end to end would, just to contain the balls and things like that better.
Would you have any signage of the rules, like whenever it's not being used?
Yeah, we would, just as we do now, at Brydebrook Park right now, we actually post times for pickleball use and stuff like that. There is pickleball courts that are painted on the basketball courts, and we post times there right now. So, there's a difference between basketball times and pickleball times, and again, the pickleball players, we do that just to monitor the activity and to minimize any potential conflicts between alternative uses. So we would do that same type of thing with the pickleball courts.
Any other questions by the commission?
Yes, will there be a charge for the use of the courts?
That's a great question. There are times when we would be likely charging a fee. For example, if we were having a clinic or a program for lessons or things like that, or a tournament, definitely people would be paying a fee for those types of things. But other than that, it would be a park that's open for drop-in use, just like the playgrounds, the playscapes, the fields and whatnot. People are free to go use those at times when they're not programmed, to come and go and free open use.
Okay, if the commission doesn't have any more questions, does the public have any comments for the pickleball court? Any against? I believe someone sent in one letter that's fairly neutral. If we could read that into the record.
Sure. It's a letter from Arlene Sherman to the Zoning Commission, dated 10/5/23, regarding pickleball courts at Samuel M. Peretz Park. I am a daily park user at the Samuel M. Peretz Park. The beauty of this park is that it serves people with a wide range of ages and abilities. It has beautiful natural plantings and a space that allows everyone to enjoy being in nature, and at the same time, for those who can, use it for various ball sports. I'm ready to ask the following be considered when reviewing the proposed construction of the 4 pickleball courts at the park. 1, the location proposed is a hill area that naturally divides one of the baseball fields and the basketball courts. The present hill provides a natural sound barrier, spectator area, and natural division between the recreational activities. As I am sure everyone realizes, this is a heavily used park by in-state and out-of-state and all ages of participants from multiple schools for baseball, softball, lacrosse, and soccer. The particular hill area taken away will also take away the beneficial noise barrier and spectator areas. It is possible that there is another area in the park that could accommodate pickleball courts where there is minimal damage to the surrounding areas used by other sports and park users. That was a question. Number 2, the park is well used for various sports, and especially soccer, lacrosse, and baseball and softball. Parking is non-existent when these activities occur, and games can go on for several hours as participants and their families and friends remain to picnic and socialize. The cars and traffic sometimes include players, family, and spectators for those certain sports. At times it is not possible for the participants of the passive activities such as walking or running to find parking. I am concerned for adding additional parking spaces needed for the pickleball games. During the summer, there are at times 15 to 20 cars for the sport, considering the number of pickleball players and the needed spare players. Number 3, along the eastern side of the proposed construction area are 3 presently healthy, I believe, linden trees. They are in great shape and provide significant shade during the hot months and beauty year-round. Presently, the emerald borer beetle has attacked and damaged all of the ash trees in the park, and there are several of them. This beetle can be mitigated and probably the damaged ash trees can be saved if acted upon. An active tree planting program would be a great benefit to the park since it is so heavily used by all ages and multiple spectator activities. The linden trees I am referring to have a root span as large as the canopy seen above ground. I'm hoping that this will be considered during construction and the root system is not touched by equipment, as the survival of the trees depends on their present root system remaining intact and untouched by construction. We cannot afford to lose any trees at this park. Number 4, I'm hoping the commission will take into consideration how many cement, tarmac, and impervious surfaces have been installed. For example, the lacrosse cement structure installed on the west side of the park is significant in stature and generally goes unused. I rarely see anyone using it, and presently the base of the structure is peeling. I hope the commission keeps in mind the benefit to everyone the preservation of the natural beauty, trees, grass fields, and flowers provide everyone and does not crowd the park with too many impervious surfaces for activities that have limited use or end up getting no use. I appreciate the zoning commission reading this letter and their consideration. Sincerely, Arlene Sherman.
Do you want to address any of her concerns? Why?
Yeah, I think in particular that mound that is being referred to, that is the location where the courts would be placed. The mound would be removed, and it would just be, if you look at Bridebrook Park, it's relatively flat, and this mound was kind of an artificial thing that was created as they were, moving soil around and grading the park. So if there was excess material, they just kind of put it there. In terms of I guess, the trees and whatnot, we don't anticipate impacting any trees. The courts would be to the west of those trees, and we would hope that those trees are not disturbed in any way like that.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question. I've always been concerned when, and I'm not opposed to this project, but I've always been concerned about the town using, obviously, taxpayer money to build a facility that competes with a business or businesses that pay taxes to the town. I know Lyme Shores Racket Club has pickleball facilities. Bothers me a little bit about this competition, especially when it's free. Do you know, perhaps Lyme Shores, or if there may be another place that has pickleball in the area, Lyme Shores, are they just packed full and they won't be bothered by this free competition? Or is there plenty of people to fill all the courts?
So I guess my personal opinion is I don't have any firsthand knowledge of what the use level at Lyme Shores or any other private business is. But I would say that in terms of public parks and recreation, we have facilities that we make available to the public, regardless of ability to pay, and it's a kind of a means of providing access and opportunity for all citizens that may or may not have it. A commercial operation like Lyme Shores is in the business of providing something that they can't get elsewhere. If you wanted to have a guaranteed time at a course, you'd probably want to go to Lyme Shores and pay whatever they ask you to pay to get that guaranteed time. There is no guarantee at a public park and rec facility that you would have, access whenever you wanted and exclusive access. You would be forced to share a facility with anybody else who happened to show up. So, there would be pickleball at both locations. One would be, I would expect to be more of a commercial operation like Lyme Shores. They have a business plan in place. I don't necessarily see that we're in direct competition with them, although it is the same sport.
We have tennis courts.
Say that again?
What do we have for tennis courts? What does the East Lyme Park and Rec have for tennis courts?
East Lyme Parks and Recreation does not have any tennis courts.
Why pickleball?
Say that again?
Why pickleball and not tennis? Right? What's the difference?
Yeah, we actually, that's a great point. The whole pickleball interest in Parks and Rec started a while ago with a petition of a number of people that came to the Parks and Rec Commission asking for the community to develop pickleball courts, because it is, perhaps one of the fastest growing sports in the country, and it's extremely popular. Towns all over and surrounding us are putting in these courts to meet the demand. In terms of how that happened, then that group did go to the Parks and Rec Commission. The commission formed a committee to look at alternatives, how many courts, what they thought the cost would be, where to locate them, went through this whole exercise and came up with a report that they submitted to the Parks and Rec Commission, and the budget request that Parks and Rec put in and was funded through the most recent referendum on the budget was approved by the voters. So, this was something that was a grassroots kind of response to the community demand.
I feel like
I like your point about providing access with people that don't have a ton of money that can belong to a private club. So providing access to those sports, but it kind of falls apart when we only provide pickleball but not tennis courts. Right? That's where I'm caught.
Yeah, and I guess the response to that is there are lots of opportunities in the community that we don't provide, and I could just think you could name them: a biking facility, a skating facility. There's all kinds of things that we do and don't provide, and it's a matter of resources. In this case, the pickleball group of people in town, were successful in their efforts to convince the powers that be that this was a wise use of money. So, that's the difference. This group was successful in making that case.
I have just one other question. Is there a time limit? Because we have a private pickleball court in the neighborhood in which I live in. They're very serious about pickleball, let me tell you. So we've had to put like a time limit on it. So, because they can play pickleball for 4 hours straight, some of them. They love pickleball. So do you have like a time limit, that's when I asked you like the set of rules. Are there going to be like some rules posted there?
Yeah, we would definitely come up with any type of rules or any type of scheduling that we would need to manage play there. Right off the bat, I don't have what that time would be. It's going to be something I would expect that develops over time, and as we experience the demand and see what kind of use we get, we can move forward with implementing appropriate limits on individual play or whatnot in order to provide that equal access.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do agree with my fellow commission member down there that, it seems like a big investment into something that's popular right now, and we just shut down the tennis courts at the high school for a large portion of the day, and they get used quite a bit. People teach lessons on the courts. People are there constantly using the courts, and they've been shut down from 7 a.m. to 3:30 and during any other activity at the school. So there's probably going to be a little bit of an outcry over that, and it feels like, I just feel like there should be some dual-use courts, or at least, when pickleball isn't popular in 10 years, can they be repurposed into tennis courts? It's popular right now, and, we know how that can go sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that also. We refurbished our basketball court, and we made it a dual-use court. So, to get the pickleball court net, they're very simple. We just bought one and we put it there when the kids aren't playing basketball. So we can use courts. So if there's courts that are not being utilized, maybe, perhaps another option is to just buy the pickleball nets instead of building the whole facility. Just a thought. Because we do use our basketball court for dual use. Works out very well. Sometimes they're playing basketball on it, and sometimes they're playing pickleball on it. Works out very well.
Yes, and I would say at Peretz Park right now, the basketball court is dual line for basketball and pickleball, and it actually creates conflict. There are times when we have to tell basketball players, no, you can't play. As we, the earlier question about, how do you schedule things? That's it. We have times that we post for pickleball, and that displaces basketball players. and vice versa. So, this is an opportunity for the town to, have a little bit of the best of both worlds there and accommodate at least two sports. There are all kinds of things that we're not accommodating as resources don't allow, but this is an opportunity that the citizens of the town have said, yes, we want to spend the money on this, and we have an opportunity to do it in a place that's appropriate to do it.
Any other questions? We'll get to the public in a minute. I was just wondering if the commission had any more. I just had one. Did they look at, if you did a dual-use tennis court pickleball, how much more money would it be?
I don't have an answer to that,
Okay.
but I can tell you that it would require maybe a significant change to the amount of money that was allocated, and in rough terms, 2 pickleball courts equal a tennis court. That's just kind of in rough terms. But the configuration that we're choosing, whether we could put 2 tennis courts in that space later on, it's probably something that could be done with some amount of work.
Okay. Thank you. If the commission doesn't have any more questions, we'll go to the public. Anybody? Oh, thank you. Anybody want to speak in favor of the pickleball courts?
I will.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Gartsu.
If you could step up to the...
So, hi, everybody. I'm an avid pickleball player, and I'm also a member of the East Lyme community. So, along with Scott, he's also a member as well. We are a couple of the team leaders that we work, thank you, Jerry. Along with Jerry, we work with the town helping organize pickleball players. And as a resident of East Lyme, I myself have a really hard time finding times to play. So I travel outside of the area a lot. I've been to Mystic. I'm also a member of Lyme Shores, Groton, as well as Waterford and even West Hartford. And I have come across so many different places of the way that pickleball is played. I've mostly gone to communities where the courts are open and they don't lock them. And that's probably because the pickleballers are on there from 8 a.m. to when the lights go off at around 9 p.m. And there's no, I've never seen any kind of vandalism. Certain courts, maybe in smaller communities, they may lock them, situation like you have maybe in a neighborhood where there's nobody there all the time. But the lighting is super important because I happen to work, so I have to play in the evenings. And thank you for organizing the lighting. But the lighting that we use now on the basketball courts is not adequate. There's only a couple of lights that work. Some of them are broken, so it would be great to have better lighting. And also there has been some conflicts with trying to use the space along with basketball players. I've actually seen some dangerous situations where basketball players have fallen into the nets and somebody could have gotten hurt. But, we do the best to share the space. But this is the most popular sport probably in the world. I would say someday it's going to be an Olympic sport. It's already becoming a college sport. UConn has a team. I don't see this getting any smaller, probably getting bigger. And we're only talking about 4 courts, and we struggle with the 3 portable nets that we put up, which take time. We have to put them away. We have to lock them up. Permanent courts would be wonderful so that everybody could use them. And, families, younger children would be able to use them. It doesn't have to be just a certain age group. So I'm all in favor of it as a resident as well. I think it's just a wonderful way for the community to get involved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is
My address, 24 Damon Heights Road, Niantic, Connecticut.
Is there anyone else here tonight that wants to speak in favor of the pickleballs? Anyone who wants to speak against the pickleball courts? Come on up.
Nancy Carlisle, 80 Grassy Hill. I'm not either for or against it. I just wonder the consequences of more courts with some sorts of fencing, whether it's wind protection or whatever. That just occurs to me that is more potential for vandalism, particularly since there's now many more apartments going in around the corner. I wondered, is the town now going to be required to hire someone to be the police person so that everybody gets to the right game in the right place at the right time with the right vehicles, not fighting over parking, and oh gosh, now we're going to lock it, so who gets to keep charge of the key and who's got the key when they're sick? And I just wonder at the long-term ramifications. I like to keep everybody happy, play pickleball, great, good exercise. But what's the hook for the town down the road? And our taxes will go up, which they go up anyhow. But I was just wondering.
Thank you. Can you address who keeps the key and unlocks the gate? Thank you.
I think they'll have a gate.
Or the fence.
So, yeah, Parks and Recreation has facilities all over town, Bridebrook Park, Betts Park, McCook Point Park, Cheney Beach, all kinds of locations around town that our Parks and Rec department maintains, operates, restrooms, gates, things like that. Adding the pickleball courts to that is really not a concern, not an increase in the budget, not an increase in staffing or anything like that.
Okay.
So you're going to have 4 courts. You're proposing for 4 courts. That's 4 nets. How much are the nets? And how often would they have to be replaced?
I guess, yeah, the life of a net I would expect would be a couple of years. Cost of a net is maybe $100, $200 per net. So, maybe $700 or $800 every 3 years or so.
Okay, thank you. If there aren't any more comments, would the commission like to close this hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the pickleball hearing is closed. Why don't we take a 4 or 5 minute break before we start the regular meeting? First, I believe the regular meeting, we want to approve minutes. The minutes of September 7th, if everyone's had a chance to read them.
I make a motion we approve the minutes from the meeting from September 7th, 2023.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
5 approved, 1 abstention. Moving on, the application, of course, of Joseph Pasilio was withdrawn for Eliano's Grill for a special permit for outdoor dining at 228 Flanders Road, Niantic, Assessors Map 26.1, Lot 26. So we'll move on to the application of Waterview Landscaping, LLC, agent for Roderick Cornish, owner for a special permit for outdoor dining at property located at 26 West Main, Niantic, Assessor Map 11.2, Lot 17. And Mr. Peck, are you going to recuse yourself? So, Mr. Ginsburg, could we have you back? So we're looking for discussion. And the hearing was closed, so we cannot continue it to introduce any more evidence. Can we go down the row and hear everyone's thoughts? Mr. Manning?
So I just, fundamentally, what I'm hearing is that he's in compliance with zoning based on the number of parking places that he has in his parking lot. Right?
Yes, if when you look at the code in section Section 20.25, you have to be consistent with A through L. I states, and I'll quote, the area devoted to outdoor dining shall not be included in the calculation for parking pursuant to Section 22, nor included in the calculation for lot coverage pursuant to Section 9.3.4. The zoning board / zoning official shall consider the availability of shared parking and public parking when deciding on an application, but additional spaces are not required based on this regulation.
So, you know, that is in compliance if we grant this outdoor dining.
That would be my opinion.
Okay, and the fact that he's crowded and full is just an indication of the robustness of business, not a non-compliance issue with parking, right? 'Cause we don't have a regulatory standing to turn this down based on lack of parking.
That's my opinion. I agree with that.
All right, thank you.
The only thing that I would like to add is the exit sign. That area there has maybe come up with something. I have a concern about it, and the fence, which I did relay to her during her demonstration, that I felt like that it needs to have a top bar on it.
Any other opinions?
Yeah, I think the only other concerns are obviously the lighting and noise, any potential amplified music or whatever else. So, we'll have to keep an eye on it over the next year until it comes back before us for renewal. And
Point of clarification, with all due respect, my understanding is they're not asking for entertainment.
amplified music and lighting.
She said no speakers.
They were not
She
asking.
said no.
They
She said
said
no.
no.
Right, so she's not asking for it, so if they want it later, they've got to come back to you.
Correct.
And
Is
if
my
they
understanding.
want,
That's
if
my
they want
understanding.
lighting, they have to come back.
She had talked about, I think to quote,
Twinkle
twinkle
lights.
lights.
Just the
Yeah.
twinkle lights, but
I'm
anything more
assuming
than
those are the
that.
small Christmas tree lights.
Yeah.
But anything more than that, I would think that they would have to come back to us before a whole year, especially if it's going to be causing a problem.
If this is
to the neighbors.
approved and they come in for actual construction details, I will look at that. If I feel they need to come back to you, I will bring them back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And they do have the required number of parking spaces for the current place? Is that, what's there is adequate?
We haven't factored that because it's an existing business that's been in operation for a long time. Parking for a restaurant of that type is a standard restaurant parking factored at one parking space per 50 square feet of public floor area. Depending on how you calculate, you can take bathrooms out, hallways, and things like that, because all restaurants in Niantic are always looking at the parking issue. We know most of the existing restaurants are on small lots, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't have that number. It's a number we could get, but that question, I think you need to decide whether that's relevant or not to your discussions.
Well, I think parking is always relevant to our discussions. It's a big deal. Unfortunately, one person expressed their dismay, concern over parking. So we've got one. But if we're within the regulation guidelines for what they're proposing, then
Oh, go ahead.
no, it's okay. That's why I asked. I thought that there were only 34, but you think that I meant 32. There's more than that, correct? If they can use the back.
To be candid, I do not know the number of parking because it wasn't considered in the application initially. I mean, certainly if the commission wanted us to find that out, we certainly could do that.
I'll just double back, right? What's our regulatory standing here? They're legit with the number of parking spaces that they have because they're grandfathered in, right?
That's correct.
And the outdoor dining permit that they're looking for does not require any additional parking.
That's correct.
So,
Okay.
I totally have compassion for any neighbors, but I feel like it meets the regulations. I actually was disappointed the owner didn't come tonight to speak, but anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to agree with what's been said. I have misgivings about the parking, but I agree that if it doesn't conflict with regulations, we can't deny it on that basis.
That's a fact.
Do we have a motion?
I have a motion that we approve the application for Waterview Landscaping LLC for their outdoor dining with the conditions that were set before us, with the lighting that we talked about, the trees, the fence. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Pass 600. Thank you.
Madam Chair, published next Thursday, effective on Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ginsburg. Next up, we have the application of Jerry Locken, East Lyme Parks and Recreation Director, for special permit for installation of one 130-foot by 70-foot area to contain 4 pickleball courts at Bride Park, 221 West Main Street, Niantic, Assessor Map 10.0, Lot 1. I'll start if you want. I think it's a growing phenomenon. I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I think people will be wishing they were building more of them, actually, and I think it's nice to have one in the community where they don't have to pay. I'm for it personally, but anyone else?
I feel it's really good for the community. It is, it gives people a chance to have 4 extra courts in a very popular sport. The only question that I have for you, Mr. Mulholland, is that if we could please change the date on the email that was given to us from August 12th, 2014.
That is from,
Michelle, isn't it?
I don't know where it came
Oh,
from.
you're talking about the memo from planning?
From Michelle Williams.
yeah, that may be a typo from the folks in planning. We could,
It's dated 2014.
yeah, it's probably a typo. We can check that, and
Yeah,
Jess can
yeah,
help
just
me
a
check
simple
that. Thank
housekeeping
you.
thing, but
Thank you.
I'm for it. I
So
think
noted.
it's- Thank you. I think it's a really good idea for the community, and I think that they've done a very good job, and it's well thought out, and especially with the lighting. I hope that, you know, if there are any concerns about the lighting with area residents, that it comes back before us, and we'll talk about it. So, my answer is yes.
Any other comments?
I'm out of touch when it comes to recreational activities.
It is a very popular
got a skateboard?
growing sport, and it is
We got a
replacing.
skateboard?
It does.
It is replacing tennis in a lot of places.
Do I hear a motion one way or the other?
I make a motion that we accept the application.
Approve, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Approve or deny, please.
Approve.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, yes.
I
Make
would
a motion.
second that.
Okay.
Do you want to read the entire?
Yeah. I make a motion to approve the application of Jerry Loken, East Lyme Parks and Recreation Director, for special permit for installation of one 130-foot by 70-foot area to contain 4 pickleball courts at Bridebrook Park, 221 West Main Street, Niantic, Assessors Map 10.0, Lot 1.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Passes 600.
Madam Chair, published next Thursday, effective Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to number 5, application of Andrew Pajak, I don't want to think, okay, owner, for site plan review for deck expansion with stairs limited to 43 Regatta Drive, Spinnaker, Niantic, Assessor Map 10.4, Lot 10-1, Unit 42, and I believe we also have Attorney Bleasdale here tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
Madam Chair, there's a memo from him that we should read into the record.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
That's right.
You could if you like. I'm going to briefly comment on it after Mr. Pajak presents his
Okay,
comments,
thank
but
you.
Whatever you prefer.
We probably should lay the groundwork first by reading the memo so that the commission understands why we're here.
Yeah. All right, memo from Waller, Smith and Palmer dated October 4th, 2023 regarding this current application. Dear Ms. Thurlow, the Commission has received a site plan application from Andrew, let me help me out with this. Pajak. Andrew Pajak for a limited amendment of the approved site plan for Spinnaker Elderly Housing Development. Due to the status of Spinnaker as a specially permitted use, this application triggers a type of application review by the Commission that is uncommon and may be unfamiliar to Commission members. This letter is intended to resolve any questions the Commission may have about the procedure for this application. The application before the Commission is to amend the approved site plan for the Spinnaker Elderly Housing Development, limited to the expansion of an existing deck at 43 Regatta Drive. The existing deck was approved by the Commission 20 years ago when the Commission approved the Spinnaker development. The proposal also includes adding a staircase to the expanded deck. The addition of the staircase to the deck can be considered a safety improvement because it adds an additional means of egress to 43 Regatta Drive. The existing deck has no staircase. Procedure. Typically, a minor amendment of site plan as proposed here would be approved administratively by the zoning official William Mulholland. However, the nature of the Spinnaker development triggers a different type of review and requires that the application to come before the Commission for determination. The feature of Spinnaker that triggers this high-level review is that the Spinnaker Elderly Housing Development is a specifically permitted use, and the current site plan for Spinnaker was approved as part of the approval process of the special permit. As explained herein, the Connecticut Supreme Court has held that in these situations, the application to amend the site plan must meet additional requirements that can only be satisfied by the Commission. In Berberino Realty versus Planning and Zoning Commission of Farmington, 222, Connecticut 607, dated 1992, the Connecticut Supreme Court explained that a site plan and special permit application submitted together become inextricably entwined. When considering an application for a special permit, the Commission is called upon to make a decision as to whether a particular application for elderly housing will be compatible with the particular zoning district under the circumstances then existing. The determination can only be made after a thorough examination of the specified or specific site plan submitted. The zoning regulations render site plans inseparable from and part and parcel of the related special permit application. As such, review of a special permit application is necessarily dependent on a thorough review of the proposed site plan because, in fact, the grant of the special permit is usually contingent upon approval of the site plan. Consequently, any application to revise such a site plan must be evaluated in light of the conditions set out in the special permit regulations. Pursuant to the Barberino decision, the Commission has a two-part analysis before it on the present application. First, the Zoning Commission must apply the customary standard for site plan review. This standard requires the Zoning Commission to approve the site plan if it complies with the site plan requirements of the zoning regulations. On the present application, this analysis will be abbreviated because this is a modification of an approved site plan. This means that the site plan requirements were satisfied when the Commission initially approved the site plan 20 years ago, and the question before the Commission is whether any aspect of the minor amendment proposed in this application violates the requirements of the site plan regulations. Here, with the expansion of a previously approved structure, the Commission should look to the aspects of the site plan requirements, such as whether the expanded structure complies with setback requirements, and in this case it does, etc. Second, the Commission must render the special permit criteria set forth in Section 25 of the zoning regulations and make a finding that the proposed amendment is consistent with the special permit criteria, or state the Commission's specific findings as to how the proposed amendment does not comply with the special permit criteria. The Commission is likely aware that the special permits require a public hearing. The Berberino decision creates an unusual process whereby the special permit criteria are added onto the Commission's consideration, but the application to amend the site plan is not itself subjected to a public hearing. The process is essentially a site plan review augmented by the special permit criteria. A copy of Section 25 of the regulations is attached for the Commission's ease of reference. If the Commission is inclined to grant the application, it is the recommendation of the Town Attorney's Office that the Commission find that 1. The present application satisfies the requirements of the site plan regulations. 2, that it proposes no substantive change to the nature or intensity of the use. 3, that the proposed amendment is consistent with special permit criteria. And 4, that the proposed amendment will improve the safety of 43 Regatta Drive by adding an additional means of egress from the unit. If the commission is inclined to deny the application, it is a recommendation of the town attorney's office that the commission make express and specific findings as to how the application violates the site plan requirements and/or special permit criteria with specific reference or citation to the applicable regulation. If you have any questions, we will be pleased to respond. Rachel, or yours, Timothy Day, D. Bleasdale, Waller, Smith, and Palmer.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Secretary. Hi, thank you, Attorney Bleasdale.
I'm sorry you had to read all that.
Can you give us like the Cliff Notes?
Yeah, sure. So that letter is mostly for your record, but as we all heard, I'll try to keep it brief because you just read all of that. But really, the procedure that you have before you tonight may seem like overkill for someone who wants to expand their deck, and I would generally agree with that. The reason that we're here is that the Supreme Court has sort of imposed this requirement whenever you're modifying a site plan that was attached to a special permit. Because think about what you do when a special permit comes before you. You look at the site plan and you consider how is this specially permitted use going to unfold on this property, and the site plan is what tells you how that happens. And so I think when the Supreme Court came up with this idea, it was thinking about much more significant things. Like, for instance, if Mr. Pajak was proposing to redo all of the roads in Spinnaker, or put in maybe pickleball courts in the middle of the development, something like that might be a much more significant change because it's changing the use of the property, the intensity, the scope. So unfortunately, we're stuck with this because that's what the Supreme Court says we have to do. So your process tonight is really just to make sure that what he's proposing, that the limited amendment for his deck expansion, that it complies with your site plan requirements. So that's abbreviated because your predecessor commission 20 years ago approved the whole site plan for Spinnaker. So really what you're considering here is whether the expansion of this deck creates any new condition that's going to violate those requirements. So you want to be thinking about things like setback requirements, that sort of thing. And then really the sort of the extra consideration here that the Supreme Court has put on you is to think about whether this changes the use in any way that impacts those special permit criteria or any conditions that were in the permit. And I believe the original special permit is in the record here if the commission wanted to look at it. But it's really just a deck expansion is what it is. And typically these are the sorts of things that Bill handles for you, and he grants them or denies them, and doesn't have to bother you with it, but the Supreme Court says we do. So, does anyone have any questions for me?
Briefly, to follow up, as your staff, I've already reviewed this. I consider it a housekeeping issue, but because of the issues that we just went over, that's why we're here before. It's a very simple, essentially a set of stairs. It does meet all of the criteria in the zoning code, other than section 24, which has some subjective judgments, which the commission is familiar with, so I don't have any issues from a staff point of view. Thank you.
So we're not going to go before the Supreme Court over this issue?
Hopefully not.
You're going to paint it orange?
No.
I don't want to go before any court.
Yeah.
This has some other considerations with all the other multifamily housing developments in the community.
And,
Agreed.
and we did recently become aware that there are other decks and patios within Spinnaker and perhaps other developments where this process wasn't followed, in part because folks have put on decks or something like that without getting a permit. And obviously Bill can't read everyone's mind in town. He doesn't know wherever all the violations are happening. But as they come to our attention, this is something we're going to look at because we know it's a problem now. So,
Thank you.
so if no one has questions for me, I think it's probably a good idea for Mr. Pajak to come up and
Please, thank you.
briefly outline this for us.
Good evening. Thanks for the time and addressing this, our request. It's a simple 12 by 6 foot extension to an existing 12 by 12 deck and the addition of stairs. If you have pictures of the deck, you'll see that it's elevated. It's quite isolated. None of the neighbors can see this deck. So it's in a great location just to put a 6-foot extension on the deck. We would greatly improve the materials used to construct the deck. It's currently a wooden deck. It's almost 20 years old. By going to a TimberTech deck, this will alleviate any expenditures by our HOA to have to maintain this deck for probably the next 20 years. So the HOA, I'm on the board of the HOA. I'm vice president, and I'm also chairman of the maintenance committee. So I'm very concerned about maintenance of our capital infrastructure within Spinnaker. So I view this as a benefit to the HOA because it takes that off the ledger in terms of having to maintain it. So it satisfies all setback requirements. I can answer any questions you might have, but it's a very simple 6-foot extension to a deck. And stairs.
I don't have a question, but I do commend you for coming to ask for, for permission to do it instead of just doing it, which is sometimes the case.
When you ask the town for what do I need to do,
Yeah.
you get a building permit application and a zoning permit application, and that's what I completed, and that's what's got us here.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Pajak?
Are you changing the footings at all,
No, well,
other than the stairs?
we have to put in another column to support the addition to the deck, yes. So we got the building has already reviewed the application and the structure.
Okay.
So the caissons, the depth of the caissons, the size of the column, 4x6 column.
Issued the size or the stairs or both?
He's adding a set of stairs and a little
There's-
extension landing for the stairs to
Okay.
get up and onto the.
The stairs are an L-shaped configuration, so there's a
Okay.
platform part, and then so there's 4 columns that support that platform also.
There are photos in your packets as
Got it,
well.
yep.
Should this be approved, I'll be signing in the morning. The building permit has been pre-signed. It's waiting on me. Should you move that forward? So we're anticipating tomorrow morning.
We've shown all the fastenings to the house, et cetera, so that's all in compliance.
And building will inspect it as it's constructed.
Has there been any feedback from the other members of the community in terms of pro or con to this, or none?
As far as I'm aware, it's been completely positive. We have one of the members of the community here who's also on the board. The board approved this quite some time ago, and everybody in the community is asking, why hasn't it moved forward yet?
To follow up on that, we require, for any kind of activity in any of these developments, permission from the association. So all the boards have to get, we get a letter so that we know that the board, an individual hasn't come forward and said, I want to build on, because it's association property, so we ask for that.
We also have an alteration request process that the applicant has to turn into our board. This is the first time zoning has really come up as an issue in that application process. We have gone back now and are reviewing our application to make sure it has the right language to deal with this in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I certainly don't have a problem with the addition. Any other comments?
Enjoy your deck.
Thank you.
We would need a motion before he can enjoy his deck.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the expansion of this gentleman's deck and the addition of stairs.
We'll second it.
Should we have a second?
Second.
So, Madam Chair, if you would please read that off the agenda so that we have it in the record with the address as well.
And if I could just add, it's important that the commission also make those findings that I suggested in my letter, those 4 findings, if you're approving.
Do you want to read this? Put the 4 findings.
Yeah, where are we at?
To approve the application.
Yeah, I move to approve the application of Andrew Pajak, owner, for the site plan review for the deck expansion with the stairs limited to 43 Regatta Drive, Spinnaker, Niantic, Assessor's Map 10, dot 4, Lot 10-1, Unit 42. We also move that the following 4 conditions have been met: that the present application satisfies the requirements of the site plan regulations, that it proposes no substantive change to the nature or intensity of the use, that the proposed amendment is consistent with the special permit criteria, and that the proposed amendment will improve the safety of 43 Regatta Drive by adding an additional means of egress from the unit.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Pass 600. Enjoy your deck.
Enjoy your deck.
Next, we have, at our last meeting, we passed out 2 text amendments. I'm assuming everybody had time to look those over. The first one tonight, I'll ask Mr. Mulholland to briefly talk about the architectural design regulations.
So as the commission is aware, over some time we've been looking at this issue. I've drafted this, we passed it out for your review. It is essentially extending the architectural design requirements for Niantic Village north of Gorton Pond to all the commercial area in that vicinity of Flanders Four Corners. It's the same regulation with some adjustments in terms of the text to reflect this change. So that area would be, should you move this forward to public hearing, and that would, we anticipate that would be probably the December meeting based on the availability of slots to come before the commission, and move that forward, and that's what we were asking that occur if the commission chooses to do that.
And when would we have a hearing if we...
Well, we think it's going to be, I think it's the 7th of December. We're anticipating that. As we know, as applications come and go, we're always looking for timing of, and I think that's when we can get out, because there are automatic referrals to DEP, regional planning and local planning, and they need by statute 35 days, so we like to make it 40 days so that we have a little bit of time and a cushion, and we have to run 2 legal ads. So that's the process. So we think December is probably when we can get to it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, comments? We've been talking about this for at least a year, so I'm excited to finally bring this up and have a hearing about it.
I agree.
We agreed. I think it's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
We feel neglected over at that end of town sometimes.
Not intentional.
So really, we're going to take Flanders and make it conform as the same as...
Well, it's not the same, but the way this, well, and that's a consideration, and that's why it was a year. Because the way the original design stuff was written, there are really 3 levels. The zoning guy can sign off on the minor stuff, then there's some middle ground, and then there's anything brand new. The criteria was written in a fashion that it could be applied in other places. Well, the distinct character of Niantic is different than Flanders, which has more of an urban feel to it, Miracle Mile, where Niantic Village is a little more village. This board has, over time, expressed a concern about architectural design townwide in the commercial areas, the multifamily, the industrial, and we're not really regulating industrial. Industrial is industrial, but we've had some decent-looking buildings come into the industrial area. So it's an attempt to really step up the developer's game, per se. With all due respect, most developers will look, they look at the cost. And we all know if you build a house, you put an addition on, everybody looks at the cost. There are materials available today that look as like an upgraded material, but they're not that much more expensive to use. And so it's up to this commission. What you're really saying is step up your game. It's not intended to provide a tool to say no. It's intended to say you could do a little better. A flat roof with metal skin is not something I think the commission wants to see in the commercial areas based on what has been expressed in the past. So the way the standard was written, it could be applied in that area as well because it's more generic. And this commission, in my opinion, is skilled enough to, when you look at something in Niantic, to kind of look at the character of that area. And I've got to be careful because Tim and I are going to be talking to you in the future about the word character. regarding, because the state legislature has deemed we may not be able to use that word anymore. So we're going to look at that a little closer in the very near future. So this is something the Commission's asked us to do, and this is the document. And of course, we're talking about going to public hearing where you will take in consideration and make a decision.
And I think there's leeway in the way it's written to apply it, but it has a safeguard so you wouldn't get something really horrendous.
When I looked at writing the intent was really to give you some additional tools, but also understand that the applicant is coming forward and may have, some of these chain stores have their own style, their own facades, etc. It doesn't mean McDonald's has to look like a traditional McDonald's. So the board had intended to step up the design, but there's enough flexibility in it, in my opinion, to allow you to carefully weigh and rather to be imposing a demand that you must. It gives you the flexibility to encourage these guys the applicants to do better, and to allow you to impose somewhat with a light hand. So I don't think we're looking to use that as a tool to stop development, but to make it, enhance it, and make it better. But again, at public hearing, you'll be able to vet this further.
Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we move it to the December 7th for...
Well, I would ask that you ask staff to schedule it for a public hearing, and when we can assess what slots are available and verify that that date is actually available.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm asking you, Mr. Mulholland, could you please schedule it?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, we're moving on to, I believe it was number 7. We have a text amendments dealing with landscaping, plantings, and plantings. Also, I think there's some lighting in here.
There is, if I may, Madam Chairman. There's a memo attached from me that I gave to you. I believe it's dated September 7th, 23. This past July, the Commission was a beneficiary of a representation by Mrs. Meekoff of the 501c3 nonprofit organization known as the Pollinator Pathway East Lyme, PPEL, regarding the use of native plants in commercial developments in our community. It was suggested that the board may want to address this subject by adjusting our zoning regulations. As a result of the presentation, the Commission Chair, Ms. O, asked that I review the site plan regs and develop an enhanced landscape regulation that would address the use issue of invasive plantings in new developments. Based on this directive, I offer the following text amendment, and in that text amendment, we added some language, but we also chose, while we were at it, to talk about maintenance and replacement of plants, native plants, non-native species, outdoor lighting, because it was an opportunity for us to adjust the site plan, because we've had some issues with developers in terms of outdoor lighting. We wanted to make sure we had a little bit more regulation in it, so there's no debate over what our expectation was. So there's some lighting regs in there that you've had to look at for a while. We got into the lumens, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You talk about dark sky initiatives. The materials that I looked at, there are reams of material on this, and we didn't want to have a heavy hand. We wanted to up our game a little bit so that if we're doing a stop and shop type development, that we know what we're getting for aluminums. It's in the code book. The height of lighting standards, we don't want any spill off the site. We want to require an lumens plan as part of the submission and site plan so that we can evaluate whether the light spills off or not. We're really looking to talk about major developments, but there's also some forgiveness in here for the mom and pop operations. And that's essentially what we have in there, and we'd ask to send that to public hearing where that can be reviewed and debated. And we would ask that it go to the same, we're trying to keep it on the same schedule, and as we did the design section, so we'd probably have both of these items on the same night should you want to move this forward.
And I just wanted to point out 3 parts in here where it talks about non-native, invasive, and invasive plant species listed on the Connecticut invasive plant list shall not be used in the landscaping plan for any new development or redevelopment of property. Under these regulations, native plants shall be used in all landscape plans. A native plant is defined as one that lives or grows naturally in a particular region without direct or indirect human intervention and is indigenous to the Northeast. And also, landscape plan shall facilitate greenways and planting to support local fauna, including pollinators. So, I mean, there's more in here, but I just wanted to call that part
And I
out.
want to also add as follow-up, if you look at the draft 24.6F, we talk about maintenance and replacement. We wanted to really enhance that because, as the board knows, we've had some issues at Stop and Shop. And so we want to make sure it's clear in the code. You cut it, you own it, you will replace it. So I put that in there as well, and we can look at that when we get the public hearing.
Okay, and you were just calling those 3 sections out about not native, we just approved an outdoor dining where
Those-
she specifically stated she
Are-
was using,
Aren't they already there?
no, the structure was put in, said specifically.
I
Some were
asked.
Were
there.
non-native, right, arborvitae.
She did make a statement, but I also note that these aren't adopted yet.
These are
We're getting there.
Right.
So they're not,
I understand.
yeah,
I understand.
and you're not wrong.
Right, right. And
So
you said protection for mom and pop operations?
Well, it's hard to write a set of regulations when you're looking at developing parking lots. You want to treat them all the same, but they're not the same. A Stop and Shop, a Costco, and we don't have a lot of big box. We don't anticipate that. But the bigger parking lots require different review, and they're treated differently because they are different. The small mom and pops are generally, behind a storefront where the guy has 20 parking spaces. Well, we're not going to make him put in a similar grade as we would on a bigger development. When the bigger developments generally have a team of engineers, et cetera, it's relatively easy to do. So we've kind of tried to build in the ability to be flexible where we can, but to make sure we have regulation in the code book.
I literally spent maybe 20 minutes on this earlier just because I was looking at the language last week about this being, now it says indigenous to the Northeast. I think I read something else earlier that I thought was a little bit different than that. So we can get really deep into the weeds on this when you take a green giant arborvitae, which is great screening and is one of the few arborvitaes that's deer resistant, is not native to the Northeast. It was introduced to the Northeast in like the 60s and it's native to the West Coast.
We can adjust these.
We can what?
We can adjust them.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm
And
getting
that's
at.
what the hearing would be for, to get.
And that's what the
input.
hearing is for, because that type of arborvitae does kind of grow vertically. It's a lower maintenance, deer resistant. We all had plants, all of us, that the deer have fun with, and when we plant them and whatever we do, and or we're fencing them off.
But we're confident that using that language, or
Well, I think that's something we're going to discuss at hearing, and we can vet that, and because we can adjust
okay.
accordingly, and that's the purpose of a hearing.
That one leaps out at me too, where I agree with the first one, non-native basic plant, okay, right? Then you get into native plants only should be used, right? Well, there could be plenty of non-native plants that are invasive and negative to a particular situation.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So at a hearing, that that's something we would vet, and we can always adjust the language. It may take us a couple weeks more, but
I think there's enough interest in town to move in this direction. So I think a hearing would be good to get feedback from everyone, and if we need to adjust something, we do that. But I
So-
think it's a step in the right direction.
so, Madam Chair, shall I schedule this for a hearing and move this
We
forward?
need to vote on it. Do we have a
Thank you.
motion?
Yes. I make a motion that we schedule a hearing For Mr. Mulholland, you think we can do it on December 7th?
I will schedule it along with the other one as we look at the slots that are available and find a good date. I'm anticipating early December.
Okay.
I don't want, it's not carved in stone because I want to go back and look at the schedule. We've got some items out in the wings that are coming in. I think I can manage to get it in on the schedule at that time. And again, we have to refer it out. I need about 40 days, so that's our next. Should you move forward, tomorrow or Monday, we'll be doing the referrals and getting them out into the mail so that we're in compliance with the state statutes, and then we can have a hearing and the issues.
Yeah, it would be nice to talk about it because it's not just about native plants and what they do. It's not just about the landscaping alone. It's about the insects. It's about butterflies. It's about the stuff that goes on that it does involve native plants. It's just the native plants do provide certain bugs and certain things that we have to have that are native to our area.
Did you want to repeat your motion?
Yeah, I'd like to have Mr. Mulholland, could you please schedule?
I will, thank you.
For a text amendment,
Yeah, text amendment.
24.
proposed text amendment for section 24.
Yep, section 24, yeah. Proposed amendment, section 24.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? We'll have another hearing. Let's see. Old business. Any old business? Any new business?
I have a question. That might be new business.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Mulholland, if you have anything to report on the Stop and Shop situation?
Their attorney will be here on another matter shortly, and he was going to address that issue. He should be here, I think it's November 16th.
And while you're speaking, you're up next. Any new
I
business?
have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Is Miss Hardy here? Oh.
Good evening, everyone. I think two items of interest to the board as well as all of our residents in general. The Charter Revision Commission has been drawn up, and the charges and recommendations for changes will be available online. It will be by referendum vote, and that will be at the end of October. And then also the land purchases coming up also for a referendum vote on Hathaway Farms property, and the other two properties included with that. That's it.
Any questions from Ms. Hardy?
The Airbnb regulations around Airbnb that was kind of kicked down the road, is that by is that what happened?
Actually,
They're still doing it.
we just had a hearing, but I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
They did appoint an ad hoc committee, and they've had 2 meetings and a hearing.
And they're having another one at the end of this month. They were having a second public hearing at the end of this month. I attended the first one. It wasn't very well attended, so hopefully the second time around there'll be more people that come. I think it was a little confusing too. People thought that it was here, and it was really at the high school. So there was a little confusion about that.
Well, there was a relatively good turnout, considering everything else that's going on this time of the year. But we did get some good input.
It was mostly owners so far because it was posted on Airbnb website.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Was it Mr. Peterson went to the last planning?
Yeah. It was a while ago, so.
That's okay.
I believe the memo date on that planning, I think it was that September 19th. it's supposed to read, for the
Oh, okay.
pickleball courts. Because they did approve that. So one of the things they talked about was opening up the subdivision, re-subdivision regulations 4, 6, 8, and 11 to remove environmental response team, because there is not one for the state, I believe. And add an environmental impact assessment. Who that would be someone that holds an accreditation or certificate, some type of degree in that field. And the discussion was whether all land, regardless of the quality, would have to do an environmental impact assessment. And they approved that. I think they're having a hearing, I think, around December 1st was the date. And then they approved to go to the purchase of the 3 parcels of land. Hathaway Farms, Ravenwoods, and Oswegatchie for a public hearing, which they had September 27th.
Thank
That's about it.
Thank you. The next meeting we have listed as October 10th. I actually cannot be there, but I think Mr. Schmidt, you come out, S comes before T. I was wondering if you can you make the, I don't know, the October 10th? You may have.
Planning meeting?
I'll have to check.
I definitely cannot do the 10th.
Can anybody do the 10th?
I can't do the surgery.
We'll try to get someone there on the 10th.
What time is that meeting?
I think I believe they start at 7.
Yep.
I do have a prior commitment. I'm not sure I'll be done by 7.
Well, when it gets close, the 10th is next week. Would any of our alternates be able to go on the 10th to the planning meeting? Well, we'll have to work on this outside.
October 10th?
Yes.
Yeah, next week.
I think I can make that.
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Pratt. I think that about wraps it up for tonight, unless anybody has one last item. If not, could we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.